It was an accident of geography that earned tiny Midway Island a prominent place in World War II history. Midway is located at the northwestern end of the Hawaiian island chain, approximately 1,300 miles from Honolulu, Hawaii. The island got its name because it is about midway between San Francisco, California, and Tokyo, Japan. Midway is even closer to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet in 1941. The U.S. recognized Midway Island's strategic location and took possession in 1867. It became an important refueling stop for trans-Pacific passenger flights, as well as a vital link in global communications. Midway soon became an important stop for U.S. Navy ships. By 1941, a seaplane base, naval air station, and several gun emplacements had been constructed on the island, and it had become second only to Pearl Harbor in protecting the west coast of America. But the U.S. was not the only country to recognize the island's geographic value. For very different reasons, the Japanese also coveted Midway. In December 1941, Japan moved to seize Malaya, Burma, the Dutch East Indies, the Philippine Islands, and other areas in the Central and Western Pacific. The U.S. military occupation of Midway was an obstacle to the Empire's quest for domination of the Pacific. In retaliation for the December 7, 1941 bombing of Pearl Harbor, the United States took Japan by surprise in April 1942 when it launched Army aircraft from the USS Hornet to bomb the Japanese home islands. The Doolittle raid forced the Japanese to consider adding Midway and another target, Alaska's Aleutian Islands, to the protective zone east of their home islands. May 1942. It was the resolve of the U.S. forces in the Battle of the Coral Sea, the first aircraft carrier battle of the war between Japanese and U.S. forces that thwarted Japan's advance toward our ally, Australia. Midway was a prime location for a showdown between the massive Imperial Japanese Navy and a U.S. Navy weakened by early war losses. Admiral Yamamoto, commander of the Japanese fleet, believed he could defeat the American Navy if he could destroy the American carriers that had escaped the Pearl Harbor attack. In addition, a Japanese base on Midway would threaten Hawaii and the west coast of the United States, possibly forcing peace negotiations between the two countries. The Japanese thought they had no other alternative than to meet the U.S. forces at Midway and defeat them in a decisive showdown. But Midway belonged to the United States, and the United States Navy and Marine Corps intended to fight to keep it that way. A line had been drawn in the vast Pacific Ocean at a tiny island called Midway. That line would become an historic point of no return for both Japan and the United States.